Hey, this podcast holds nothing sacred. This is Life, Tech, and Sundry. And what is Sundry? It's our experiences put in a melting pot to the internet. So join us on this wild ride called the LTS Podcast. Follow us at LT Sundry on Twitter, LTS.pod on Instagram, Life, Tech, and Sundry on YouTube, and all your favorite podcast distribution services. Stay frosty.
Welcome to the LTS Out of Office. I'm your host, Marcos Lopez. I'm currently staring at my monitor with a grin that's half maniacal and half impressed. Yeah, impressed. Wow. I slowly pull at my hair because it's February, only February 2026. And the quote-unquote rules of reality are apparently just suggestions now, since we're all just NPCs in a very expensive co-op simulation. Let's check the receipts on who's buying your hobbies and who's breaking your hardware. Grab a drink and let's look at these shenanigans. Shenanigans, I tell you, shenanigans. Starting with the indie Bloodbath. The $3 million middle finger. This actually happened last year in April of 2025, but it's still making the rounds on social media and all those things that want to promote this content creator. Not directly, maybe. I want to say indirectly, but the story is still worth sharing. Again, famous, infamous, famous, notorious content creator known as Markiplier's Iron Lung film snagged the #1 spot at the United States box office for 2 days straight. This independent win proves that a focused creator can outperform massive studio budgets with just a fraction of the cash. A fraction, man. It's $3 million is nothing for movie productions. Nowadays, I've heard people making up to 180 million, 150 million, and that's just half of the story that they decide to share with us. What's the T specifically? It's a massive quote-unquote pro for creator-led cinema. But what's the cons? Well, the cons is that the industry reportedly scrubbed it from charts to keep the gates shut. You know, Lionsgate, all those different things. I'm just kidding, by the way. It's basically all the data tracking. They just decided to remove it. Why? We don't know. We only know that it happened. They haven't even told us why. What does this mean? It's a very bad ledger, if you will. A very red ledger, specifically on the movie. The movie reportedly broke the world record for the most blood used in a single production, which was produced for roughly $3 million, which makes those $200+ million studios flops look like absolute financial tragedies. Makes you think, are they doing the movies for the tax write-offs or for creating content and just, if you will, slop, if you will. Again, it's art. Art is in the eye of the beholder, but it makes you think, basically. What's the T specifically with this red ledger? The efficiency is a pro for lean filmmaking. Wow, the sheer mess of whoever had to clean the set was a con. Mind you, people got paid, but still, if you had to nitpick at a con, there it is, cleaning up the post-production bloodbath, if you will. Then there's breaking the studio system. The creator, specific movie producer, specifically, if you will, Markiplier, sees this as a definitive victory for YouTubers breaking into the professional film world. Mind you, what's the difference? The budget? Apparently not. It's the ticket sales or the charts data tracking, which apparently wasn't even active. Now, it highlights a growing trend of audiences following personalities over traditional studio marketing. Mind you, these actors become personalities from the movie industry, like what's this? The blonde lady from the 60s. I forgot her name, but they became icons. But first, they were actors, if you will. They broke in through the acting world. Meanwhile, Markiplier was first a content creator on YouTube, which went into the movie industry. So it's breaking the trend, if you will. Now, what's the tea with this? This shift is a pro for artistic freedom, but the con is the inevitable friction with old school Hollywood and its elites, if you will. The ones that are heavy hitters that brought up the industry generationally, if you will. The nuance for this story is that the industry doesn't actually hate the movie. They fear that a guy who is known for making videos with web cameras proved their entire marketing department is slipping, or if you will, becoming obsolete. And now, speaking of gatekeeping, let's talk about Sony, who is currently playing Monopoly with every anime you've ever liked. And yes, my left eye is twitching when reading this. When I ran into this, it made it twitch my left eye. Sony's anime empire. Mind you, Sony is Japanese. Why not, right? Wrong, I'd say, at least. The Egg Firm Heist. January 2026. Sony's Aniplex subsidiary just swallowed Egg Firm, the production house for the anime Sword Art Online and Mushoku Tensei, also known in English as Jobless Reincarnation. By extension, Sony now effectively owns Studio Bind, the creative engine behind some of the industry's biggest hits. What's the tea with all this? Well, the pro is financial stability for the studios. Mind you, they're infamous for being bare bone. There's tradition of how money is worked, the artist, everything. There's a history there that people are trying to secure always funds. Hopefully this studio can secure a budget for all these production studios and make them worry about that less. Big pro though, if it turns out to go that way. Now, what's the con? Well, the con is that the big three is starting to look like the big one. The One Piece, if you will. One Piece is real by the studio, Sony, I guess. Now, the death of choice. Sony already holds the keys to Crunchyroll and Funimation, rest in peace. Plus, massive stakes in Kurokawa Productions, or studios if you will, this company also famous in Japan. This creates a near total vertical monopoly controlling everything from the drawing board to the streaming app. Good or bad? We're still finding out. Mind you, Crunchyroll has a dark smudge, if you will, in its record because it decided to purchase the Interspecies Reviewer series and didn't publish it, even though they bought it. So they have a little X on their not so good history there. Now what's the tea here? Having everything in one place is a pro for convenience. But the con is the absolute lack of market competition. What does competition do? It makes people be creative, artistic, make their personality shine more through than their brand. Mind you, for the movie Markiplier, he was a personality. He had to stand out with the millions of YouTubers that are there. Me, I'm proud. I have to stand out in a different way. Still working on it. So please, listen. But yeah, so this reduces that competition but creates a brand loyalty, uniformity that could be negative in the long run for creativity. Now, don't forget about the shadow of censorship. Fans are spiraling over whether quote-unquote edgy content will be sanitized to meet corporate quote-unquote brand safe standards. What does that mean? For example, in the 80s, different kind of animes. There was City Hunter in 2000s, like 2011, 2010. There was High School of the Dead. There was Freezing, the anime called Freezing. There's different Keijo into anime productions. Will those disappear? And again, Crunchyroll had interspecies reviewers. What will happen there? Will this become more normal? That edgy content won't be published that often or created that often into anime. Who's to say? There is significant concern regarding how Sony/Crunchyroll will market or hide more controversial series. Again, interspecies reviewers always comes to mind. The T, broad distribution, is a pro for global reach, but creative watering down is a catastrophic con for the art form, if you will. With all this, let me give you some nuance. Sony isn't just buying studios. They're buying the right to decide what quote-unquote culture looks like for the next decade or so, if you will. But if Sony thinks they have total control, they should probably check their own living room, because the basement door just got kicked in and I'm over here giggling through the pain. The PlayStation 5 hardware jailbreak, the permanent wound. This came out in January 2026. A hardware level exploit for the PlayStation 5 by Sony has been revealed. And guess what? Sony physically can't patch with a software update. Just can't patch it because it's a physical exploit that came out of the factory. Now, millions of current consoles are now permanently susceptible to this vulnerability. What's the T? Well, the pro is that is total hardware freedom for users. The con is a massive security headache for Sony's engineers. Now, what does this mean for the digital freedom or privacy? The jailbreak allows users to run game backups directly from the internal SSD, bypassing all digital locks. It essentially turns the closed garden system of the PlayStation into an open field for unauthorized software. What's the T? For the users, it's a pro, a boon, if you will, for ownership, for developers and emulators, if you will. Now, what's a con? As piracy becomes a real threat yet again for companies. The emulation wars. Users can now run emulators on the console, effectively competing with Sony's official classic game sales. They're competing again. It's emulation. It's always been emulation, but now you can play it on the PS5. This exploit allows the PlayStation 5 to do exactly what Sony has been charging you extra for years. What's the T? Playing your old library for free is a huge pro, but it kills Sony's remaster business model, which is a corporate con. What's the nuance with all this? Well, it's the ultimate reminder that you don't really quote-unquote own your hardware until someone finds a way to break the manufacturer's heart. Damn. Of course, if you're going to break the rules on your console, you might as well buy a monitor that'll help you cheat in the game too. I'm over here just giddy, if you will. But it's a grin of a man who's seen way too much. With this following story, the era of quote-unquote legal cheating, the company's MSI's God Mode monitor. Again, January 2026, MSI released a monitor with built-in AI quote-unquote wall hacks that highlight enemies with glowing borders in real time, people. The AI can even spot enemies camping in pitch black corners or through the thick smoke, which can affect balancing in some first-person shooter games. What's the T? Well, it's a quote-unquote pro for accessibility and hardware power, but a massive quote-unquote con for anyone who values actual skill. So don't put it into competitive games and you're all set, right? Ban that. Don't make it illegal. Just ban it in competitions, right? Right. The flashbang killer. The monitor detects when you're hit with a flashbang in-game and automatically adjusts the brightness so you aren't blinded, which is great for accessibility with visual impairment. It also reads your minimap in real time to mark enemies' locations with red skulls on your main display, people. It'll mark you like waypoint markers of where to go, where the enemies are in real time. What's the T here? Having a quote unfair advantage. Again, having an unfair advantage in competitive play for occasional play, if you will, in competitive games is a pro. There's no doubt about that for padding your KD ratio. But it can be a con for the integrity of every first-person shooter game, commonly known as FPS, on the market. Mind you, you're buying it for entertainment. If you're doing it for a business, there will be rules, there will be regulation. An example, can't use NOS in competitive quarter-mile races or in NASCARs, can you? Of course not. So, there will be regulations of what you can't use in competitive or professional play where there's thousands of dollars on the line, but can do it recreationally where it doesn't matter, right? Right. The anti-cheat ghost. Because the AI is integrated directly into the monitor, the monitors normally have hardware, so they integrate it right there instead of going into the graphics processing unit on your computer. Software-based anti-cheats are completely useless against it. This follows a trend of hardware manufacturers adding gameplay, quote-unquote, enhancements that are virtually undetectable by software in the PC. Basically, you have a PC for playing your game, but also your monitor is a PC that optimizes the monitor stuff. You have two computers at the same time. You've always had it apparently. So let's see how this shakes down in the future. Still ongoing. I'll keep you informed. Stay tuned. What's the T for all this whole thing? Well, being unbannable is a quote-unquote pro for cheaters. The death of fair play is a con, quote-unquote, for literally everyone else. Again, if you're doing competitively, you can put it in the rules that you can't use this. You will be automatically disqualified if money's on the line. If you're doing it on streaming, colloquially, just for fun, then that doesn't matter. Now, what's the nuance here? Well, we've reached the point where the hardware is playing the game for us, and we're just there to hold the mouse or controller. I really don't think so. It's you pay to have fun, so you will have fun, right? It's all point of perspectives. If it's a business, obviously there will be regulations for it, so they're gonna find a way to work this out. And finally, if you can't win with AI, you better hope you picked the right friends, because when the world ends, your monitor won't save you from a bad squad. I'm pulling my hair here, people, but in a fun way. I'm literally like, choose your squad carefully, closing it up with the zombie friend audit. There are archetypes of the end. This video came out in January 2026. This is a viral point of view comedy, a skit, if you will, a comedy skit, which is breaking down the different types of friends that emerge in a zombie apocalypse. The content satirizes everything from the panicked friend to the one who is oddly prepared for the collapse. What's the T with this skit? It's a pro for relatable humor. The con here is realizing your best friend is definitely zombie bait. If you can't pin down who the zombie bait in your friend group is, guess what? It's you. Comedy and survival dynamics. The skit highlights how existing social rules with a group would likely translate to disaster scenarios. It taps into the quote-unquote the boys comedy trend, focusing on group incompetence and surprising heroics. The T with this skit is that bonding over shared shenanigans, if you will, is a pro. But realizing you have zero actual survival skills is a sobering con. 2026 vibe. Zombie tropes remain a massive pop culture obsession. as a way to process real-world social anxiety. The video uses stereotypes to create a mirror of our own social circles. What's the T here? Entertainment value is a pro, but the con is that we're still just laughing, like me, at the same tropes while the world actually burns. What's the nuance in all this? Survival isn't about the zombies. It's about making sure you can run faster than the friend who spent all their money on AI monitors. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Well, that's the report for today, folks. Sony owns your watch list. Your console is wide open and your monitor is basically playing the game for you. While your friends get you eaten by zombies, I'm Marcos Lopez, and this has been LTS Out of Office. I'm gonna go lie down now in a dark room and grin at the ceiling now. Get back to work. Or don't. The simulation doesn't care, and neither do I. You know where to find us in the links in the description. Leave a like, share this podcast if you think you can, share it to friends. You know what to do. Thumbs up. Love you guys. Stay frosty.